During World War II, German propaganda painted a very clear picture of Britain's soldiers. They were portrayed as weak imperial troops, propped up by outdated traditions and false confidence. Newspapers mocked them. Radio broadcasts dismissed them. Official statements reduced them to symbols of a declining empire that could not survive a modern war. But propaganda is designed for the public, not for the truth. When German soldiers wrote letters home, when generals spoke privately, when diaries were filled without censorship, a very different picture of British soldiers began to emerge. One built not on slogans, but on experience. This documentary explores what German soldiers really thought about their British opponents, and why those opinions rarely matched what the world was told at the time. The first major encounter between German and British forces came in 1940 during the collapse of France. At Dunkirk, German units watched in disbelief as the British Expeditionary Force conducted a massive evacuation under constant fire. Officially, it was a defeat. Privately, many German soldiers saw something else. Captured diaries and letters describe British discipline under pressure. Units that withdrew in order rather than panic. Officers who stayed with their men. German soldiers noted that despite defeat, British troops did not disintegrate. They escaped to fight another day. That impression lingered. As the war moved to North Africa, German perceptions evolved further. Fighting in the desert stripped warfare down to essentials. Mobility, leadership, and endurance mattered more than numbers. It was here that British soldiers earned a reputation that even German commanders could not ignore. Erwin Rommel wrote candidly about his opponents in his personal papers. He described British units as stubborn, methodical, and difficult to break. He criticized their slowness at times, but never questioned their courage. In his view, British soldiers absorbed punishment and returned it steadily, refusing to collapse even when outmaneuvered. German soldiers fighting at Tobruk and later at El Alamein echoed these sentiments. They respected British artillery coordination. They admired the calm professionalism of British tank crews. These views never appeared in propaganda releases. Some of the strongest German opinions were formed not on the battlefield, but in secret rooms back in Britain. At Trent Park, near London, captured German generals were housed comfortably and allowed to speak freely. They did not know their conversations were being secretly recorded. What they said shocked British intelligence. German officers openly praised British soldiers. They described them as reliable opponents who followed orders even under extreme pressure. They mocked their own propaganda claims. Some even expressed relief when fighting British units instead of Soviet forces, whom they described as unpredictable and brutal. These were not public statements. They were unguarded moments of honesty. German respect grew even stronger when facing British special forces. The SAS and the Long-Range Desert Group operated deep behind enemy lines, conducting raids, sabotage, and reconnaissance. Their impact was psychological as much as physical. German soldiers spoke of sudden attacks that vanished into the desert, of supply depots destroyed overnight, of men who seemed to appear from nowhere and disappear again. The fear was real. So was the respect. Hit Ellier's infamous order against commandos ordering their execution upon capture was not issued because they were ineffective. It was issued because they were dangerously effective. In Normandy, German soldiers encountered British troops, again under different conditions. Hedgerows, villages, and close quarters fighting replaced open desert. Once more, German letters and post-war interviews reveal admiration mixed with frustration. British infantry were described as cautious but persistent. German veterans noted that British units rarely rushed blindly, but once committed, they pressed forward relentlessly. They adapted, learned, and improved with each engagement. This was not the enemy they had been promised. After the war, when German veterans spoke freely, their opinions remained consistent. Many expressed professional respect for British soldiers. Some even spoke warmly of shared humanity, brief truces, mutual aid for wounded, and moments of recognition between enemies. These accounts do not glorify war. They humanize it. They reveal that even amid violence, soldiers often recognize competence, courage, and discipline in those trying to kill them. The story of what Germans thought about British soldiers challenges simple narratives. It shows how propaganda distorts reality and how truth survives in private words. It reminds us that respect can exist even between enemies, and that history is often more complex than the stories nations tell themselves. German soldiers fought Britain as an enemy. Many came to respect them as professionals. World War II propaganda painted British soldiers as weak and outdated, but private German letters, diaries, and secret recordings tell a very different story. This documentary explores what German soldiers and commanders truly thought about their British opponents, drawing on authentic sources, including the Trent Park transcripts, Rommel's personal papers, and post-war interviews. From Dunkirk to Alamein and Normandy, discover how professional respect developed between enemies and why these views were never meant for public ears. A human perspective on the Second World War that reveals what soldiers really thought when no one was supposed to be listening.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Share this video with someone who might find it useful. Comment below what you want to see in the next video.